Most people think that once they hit a big savings number, they've made it. They've worked hard, cut back, sacrificed weekends, skipped holidays, and finally watched their bank account cross $120,000 and, in their mind, that's the win. That's the finish line. But here's the truth that most people aren't told. And it's a truth that could cost you years of financial progress if you miss it. Getting to $120,000 is not the hard part. What you do with it is. Because right now, thousands of Australians are sitting on six-figure savings and slowly, quietly losing. Not because the money disappeared, but because they never learned how to make it move. And money that doesn't move doesn't just stay still, it shrinks. If you've recently hit this milestone or you're close to it, this video is going to walk you through exactly what to do, step by step, in a way that's simple, stress-free, and actually built for real life. No gambling with the stock market, no overhyped shortcuts. Just a clear, smart strategy that actually works. Before we get into the plan, I want to be honest with you about something. A lot of financial advice out there is either too complicated, too risky, or designed for people who already have money managers and accountants on speed dial. That's not who this channel is for. This channel is for people who are doing the work quietly, the ones saving while paying rent, building something on the side, raising a family, or just trying to stay ahead. People who are smart enough to know they need a plan but haven't been shown a clear one yet. And by the end of this video, you're going to walk away with exactly that. A clear plan for your $120,000. One that builds security, grows your wealth, and gives you real financial breathing room without needing to risk everything or become an expert overnight. Stay with me because around the midpoint of this video, I'm going to share something that most people completely overlook at this stage. And it's the difference between staying stuck at $120,000 for the next 5 years or watching it quietly multiply. Let's start here. Most people who save $120,000 fall into one of three traps. The first trap is protection mode. They worked so hard to save it that they become terrified of losing it. So they leave it in a savings account, maybe a high-interest one, and they feel safe. But inflation is quietly running at 3, 4, sometimes 5% a year. And if your money is only growing at 2%, you're not saving your wealth. You're watching it shrink in slow motion. The second trap is the big move. They feel like they have enough to do something dramatic. Buy a property, start a business, pour everything into a single investment. And sometimes that works, but more often it ties up all their capital in one place, with no flexibility, no backup, and no room to breathe if things don't go to plan. The third trap is doing nothing while waiting for the perfect moment. They want to get it right, so they research endlessly, wait for markets to dip or interest rates to settle. And months turn into years while the money sits idle. Sound familiar? If any of those felt a little close to home, you're not alone. These are the most common places people get stuck, and they all come from the same mindset mistake, thinking of $120,000 as something to protect rather than something to position. Here's how to think about it differently. Smart money at this level needs to do three things at once. It needs to stay liquid, meaning you can access some of it in an emergency. It needs to grow, meaning a portion is working in assets that increase in value over time. And it needs to generate income, meaning some of it is building streams that pay you back regularly. Most people choose only one of those. They go all in on protection or all in on growth, or they chase income without thinking about risk. The real strategy is to structure your money to do all three, and it's simpler than it sounds. Let's walk through it. Step 1. Before you invest a single dollar, build your safety net. This is the part most people skip because it feels boring, but it's the most important foundation of everything that follows. Set aside 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-interest savings account. In Australia right now, there are accounts offering between 4 and 5% interest, which means your safety net is also earning. For most people, that means keeping somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 fully, accessible and separate from everything else. What people think this does is just sit there doing nothing. What it actually does is remove financial panic from every decision you make going forward. When you have a buffer, you don't make desperate choices. You don't sell investments at the wrong time because you need cash. You don't put expenses on credit. You think clearly, and clear thinking is where good financial decisions come from. Before anything else, build this. Then move forward. Step 2. Clear out anything that's costing you more than you can earn. If you have credit card debt, personal loans, or buy now, pay later balances carrying interest above 10%, and many of them are 15 to 20%, paying those off is the highest guaranteed return you can get. Think about it this way. If an investment promises you 8% a year, but you're paying 18% on a credit card, you are mathematically going backwards. Clearing that debt is not a sacrifice. It's a guaranteed double-digit return, and no investment can reliably beat that. Get this done quickly, and don't feel bad about using your savings to do it. It's not spending. It's removing an anchor. Now here's the part most people are waiting for. And I want to ask you to stick with me on this, because what comes next is where most Australians make the move that separates the people who genuinely build wealth from the ones who stay stuck. Once you have your safety net in place and your expensive debt cleared, you're ready to invest. And at this stage, the single most powerful thing the average person can do is start investing consistently into low-cost index fund ETFs. This is not complicated. An ETF, or exchange-traded fund, is a single investment that holds a basket of hundreds or thousands of companies at once. When you buy one unit of something like VAS, which tracks the top 300 Australian companies, or VGS, which gives you exposure to global markets, you're not betting on one business. You're buying a small piece of the entire market. Historically, broad market index funds have returned between 8 and 10% annually on average over the long term. That's not guaranteed, and yes, markets go up and down. But over 10, 15, 20 years, the direction has always been up. The strategy is simple. Decide how much you want to invest per month. Set it up to transfer automatically, and do not touch it. No checking it every day. No panic selling when the market drops. Just consistent, automated investing. Over time, a strategy called dollar cost averaging that removes emotion from the process entirely. Before the next step, I want to check in with you. If this is already making sense, good. Because there's one more piece that most Australians leave sitting on the table. And it could be one of the most powerful tools in your entire financial plan. Step 4. Look at your superannuation seriously. Most people think of super as something their employer manages and they'll deal with when they're 60. That mindset is leaving serious money behind. Here's the reality. Contributions into your super are taxed at only 15% compared to the marginal tax rate most working Australians pay, which could be 32.5% or even 45%, depending on your income. That gap is enormous. If you use salary sacrifice, where your employer contributes extra to your super from your pre-tax salary, you're essentially investing money that would have gone to the tax office instead. For high earners especially, this is one of the most tax-efficient wealth-building tools available anywhere. Super isn't glamorous. It doesn't feel exciting, but the compounding that happens inside your super fund over 20 or 30 years is extraordinary. Don't ignore it just because you can't access it yet. Now for the common mistake, and this one affects a lot of people at this exact savings level. Many Australians with $120,000 assume the obvious next move is buying property. It feels like the adult thing to do. It feels like what you're supposed to do. And for some people, in the right circumstances, it absolutely is. But here's what the conversation around property often leaves out. $120,000 deposit on a property in most Australian cities today gets you a mortgage with significant ongoing costs. Stamp duty alone can eat $20,000 to $30,000 before you've even moved in. Then there's maintenance, council rates, strata fees if it's an apartment, insurance, and the interest on the loan itself. None of this means property is a bad investment. It means it's a significant, long-term commitment that works best when it fits into a broader plan, not when it's the only move you make because it felt like the expected one. The question to ask yourself is not just, can I afford this deposit? The question is, how does this fit into my liquidity, growth, and income plan, and what does it leave me with after I buy? If buying property means all your capital is tied up, your emergency fund is gone, and you have no flexibility for the next decade, that's not wealth building. That's a trap that looks like progress. And now for the final idea, the one that most people at this level have never been told. At $120,000, the biggest mistake is thinking that one move is enough. Most people want the answer, the single best thing to do with their money. And the financial industry has trained them to want that. Because it's easier to sell one product than to explain a real strategy. But the people who genuinely grow their wealth don't put all their money in one place. They structure it in layers. Safety in a high-yield savings account. Growth through consistent ETF investing. Tax advantages through super contributions. And they leave room for opportunity. Because when the right property deal comes up, or a business moment appears, having liquidity means you can move. This is what financial confidence actually looks like. Not having all the answers, not being fearless, but having a structure that can absorb uncertainty without falling apart. The people who stay stuck at $120,000 for years are not less intelligent. They're not less hardworking. They just never saw their money as a system. They saw it as a number, and a number just sits there. A system grows. So here's where you stand. You've worked hard to reach $120,000. That is genuinely remarkable, and you should feel that. But now the next chapter isn't about saving harder. It's about thinking smarter. Build your buffer so you never make decisions from fear. Clear expensive debt so nothing is quietly draining your progress. Invest consistently into broad market ETFs so your money is growing while you sleep. Maximize the tax advantages in your super so the government isn't taking more than it needs to. And only consider property when it genuinely fits a plan. Not just because it's what everyone expects you to do. That's it. That's the structure. It's not complicated. It doesn't require a financial advisor or a six-figure salary to start. It just requires a decision to stop letting your money sit still. You've already done the hardest part. You saved $120,000. Now let it work as hard as you did to earn it. If this video helped you think differently about your money, share it with someone who's in the same position. And if you want more practical, no-fluff financial content built for real life, subscribe and stick around. There's a lot more to come.